And I put that drink in me at about 15, and we talk about spiritual awakenings. I believe I had a spiritual awakening on the spot. All of a sudden, I didn't care how fat I was. These insecurities just melted away, and all of a sudden, I felt connected to everybody. I was having seizures, blood coming out of both ends every day. This is how warped my mind was at that time. Any normal person would look at blood coming out the backside or the mouth as, this is really, really, really bad now. My mind was just telling me this is going to go away. And I used to stand on the doorstep of this pub, and I used to see all these guys congregating outside the building next door. Well, that was the treatment centre that I ended up in.
Hello and welcome to 12 Steps and 12 Questions. My name is Silvio and I'm an addict. This pod is full of personal and inspirational stories of recovery from addiction. And in every episode, I'll ask each guest the same 12 questions about their life, addiction and recovery. Quick warning, there will be some graphic descriptions and a healthy amount of swearing. For this episode, please welcome Leo. Leo, thank you so much for being my guest today on 12 Steps and 12 Questions. Before we get to your introduction very quickly, I'd like to thank you, the listener, for checking out the show and for being here. And I'm really interested in hearing from people from fellowships other than CA and AA. So if you're a member of a different fellowship and you'd like to be on 12 Steps and 12 Questions, ping me an email, please, on 12steps12questions@gmail.com. That's 12steps12questions@gmail.com. It's also in the show notes. Right, Leo, let's get to you. Can I get an introduction from you, please?
Yeah, thank you, Silvio. My name's Leo. I'm a recovered addict. I'm from Barrow-in-Furness, up in Cumbria, and I'm nearly 40 years old.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Leo, let's get straight to it. Our question 1 is, did you have any adverse childhood experiences?
Any adverse child? Do you know what, Silvio? No. I can honestly say, Silvio, that I had the most amazing upbringing. Absolutely amazing. I mean, honestly, my mum and dad, they were just the best set of parents. I was so lucky. I was blessed with a nana and granddad on my mum's side. It was a bit strange, actually, because my nana and granddad on the other side, and my dad's side I wasn't very close to. But my nana and granddad on my mum's side, they were like my second set of parents. I've got a sister. I hear a lot of stuff in the rooms about, like trauma and all that kind of stuff. I can honestly say I had nothing. No. I had the perfect upbringing, never wanted for nothing. My mum and dad's, they're still together today. I was raised in an amazing environment. I had an amazing upbringing. It's weird, because I hear people saying, wow, how did you turn out like you turned out? I don't know. I really don't know. But I can
baffling.
Yeah, it is. It is, there's not a single thing that I could blame how I turned out on, so.
Of course, this question, of course, isn't really about blame. And it's much more about delving into who we are as people and maybe finding some reasons what sort of put petrol on the flames, really, right? Because we don't really exactly know why we're addicts. We might never find out. But what I think is interesting is if you've not had any adverse childhood experiences, then the next question that comes to me right away is this. Did you always feel then like you belonged? Because often what I hear and also from my own experience, but what I hear very often is people say from the beginning that somehow they felt they didn't quite fit in. And maybe you're the first person who actually says, no, I did fit in. Because I always wonder, where are those guys who did fit in? There must be somewhere.
It's a bit of a strange one, Silvio, because it's like, I could say, yes, I did fit in. On the other side, I did have that feeling of the black sheep. The black sheep. I was the black sheep of my family. I was the black sheep of my circles of friends. And it was weird. I had no reason to feel like the black sheep. That's what I'm trying to get at. But, I just did. When I was growing up, I did have this feeling, I was quite a podgy kid and the first thing that I found comfort in was food. Because I found that I could change the way I felt when I was younger with food. But I do remember having these insecurities. Always sort of worried about what other people thought about me. And the thing is, I was such a good social chameleon When I was growing up, Silvio, I had like all these different group friends. I was actually quite intelligent when I was in school, believe it or not, and I was in all the top sets at school. So when I was knocking about with these geezers, the guys that were in the top sets, I would be a nerd, yeah? But I played basketball. The school that we went to, it was like a basketball school. So when I played basketball, I was an American. I would use all the American slang and I'd wear all the Jordan gear and all that kind of stuff. I played rugby. When I'm with the rugby lads, I'm a big rowdy rugby player and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, I had all these different masks. So I did fit in. I was good at fitting, but I was always in this fear about, I hope these guys don't end up in the same rooms with each other because I don't know who I'm going to be. I'm always scared in case with the basketball guys or with these guys, and it's all like, because I don't know. I did fit in, but it was all fake, if that makes sense.
Now, how did this black sheepness that you felt in your heart of hearts, was that founded in something, in anything? Like if they found out that I am one way or another, then they might shun me. Is there something in there? Is that why you felt this way?
Do you know what? I've thought about this long and hard, and it's like, I really don't know why I felt like how I felt. There's nothing that I could pin it on. It's strange. I just felt insecure. I felt insecure about my weight because I was quite a podgy kid. I had some crazy hair going on when I was younger, Silvio. So I don't know. I just did have that feeling of just being different. I don't know why. I just did. And like I said, there's absolutely nothing that I could pin it on as well. It's just one of those things.
So here you are, you've got no reason, or at least quote unquote obvious reason to feel different. But you feel different. In your heart of hearts, you feel different, right? But you seem to have been quite a popular kid. You seem to have got on with people. And it really leads us straight away to our question 2, which is, what did the moment you first got hooked, the fun times, what did that look like? So obviously you are growing up in this great environment. You've got a good home. You're popular. At some point, drugs or alcohol were introduced into your life.
Mm-hmm.
What did that look like?
I can honestly say, the only reason I took drink to start with, and the first substance that I put in my body was obviously the drink, but then it was the weed after that. And that was through peer pressure. That was through fear of all my mates were all doing it. And I was the last one out of all my mates to take all the different things. I was the last one out of all of us. I was the last one to drink. I was the last one to smoke weed. I was the last one to pop pills. I was the last one. But I was the guy that once I started doing it, I would be the guy that all my mates would be like, Leo, calm down. Do you know what I mean? Like, you are pushing the boat out too far straight away. From the first, it was the drink, the Mad Dog 2020 in the park. I was a late starter to the party. All my mates had been drinking since they were about 13. They'd been doing things like aerosols and all that kind of stuff. I hadn't done it, but it was that I was knocking about with these guys. My best mate as well, this is probably something to mention. My best friend, he was like what you would class as the cool kid in the school. And he was my best mate from a young age. So I was already sort of initiated by default into that cool crowd. Yeah. I didn't believe that I should have been in it. But these guys were all drinking, taking aerosols from about 13. And I was just going with them, but not doing it. And they'd always say to me, how come you're not doing it? How come you're not doing it, Leo? Have a go. And I would always be like, no, I'm all right. But it was, eventually I give way to the peer pressure and the fear of not, maybe getting rejected by these guys or whatever it may be. And I put that drink in me at about 15. And we talk about spiritual awakenings. I believe I had a spiritual awakening on the spot, there. I remember putting the drink in and just thinking, like sent the shivers down my spine. At the taste of it, it was like, but then I felt that, that warm fuzziness and that feeling of what we talk about, the comfort that goes over us. And I just remember thinking, bingo, this is it. All of a sudden, I didn't care how fat I was. I didn't care about these insecurities, just melted away. And all of a sudden I felt connected to everybody. It's like I didn't have to pretend anymore. I automatically felt connected. And, from that day forward, it wasn't really, I wouldn't say when you said the word hooked, I was a slow burner for many years. I could keep it to the weekend really, but it was the weed. It was the cannabis when I found that. Do you know what, Silvio? I would love to say that I had the same experience with cannabis, right? But I'll tell you a little story. The first time I ever took cannabis, I went on what us Northerners would call the whitey, and I went on a bad one. And I remember coming down this hill, and I was in a right bad way. I'd left all my mates, I'd gone stumbling off, and I fell down these cutting steps trying to get home. And honestly, I had dog poo up from the back of my ankles up to the back of my neck. I'd fell down these steps, I'd rolled around in it, I'd been sick all over myself. I remember being on my mum and dad's brand new sofa, they'd gone out. And I remember mum and dad going absolutely crazy at me, grounded me. But the next day when I sort of come around, and I remember just thinking like, I can't wait to do that again. Didn't even enjoy the experience, but I think it was that release from self. That's what I craved. That is what I wanted to go after again. And it was that, I don't know what it was, but, and that was it. That was what got me back. That's what got me into smoking weed. It wasn't even a good experience, but yet I chased it. And the weed became an everyday thing very, very quickly. But the drink was a weekend thing.
Yeah. It's really interesting because I smoked weed between the age of maybe 15 and 20 every day, every single day. Bongs and buckets and all sorts, right? And hand on heart, I didn't really enjoy it all that much, right? It was not until later where I found out that actually stimulants are really my thing, and they brought me to my knees very quickly. But I also smoked for a good 5 years, so quite a long time, every single day. It made me numb and dumb, is what I always say, right? It was enough to take me away from myself, from those feelings of that you were saying there as well, that you were mentioning, of not being good enough, of not fitting in, of being different, of not being right in this world, and all those sort of things. So it's a shared experience that of using weed every day, and weed is particularly good for that sort of thing, right? How did it continue from there? Because a bit like you, in the beginning, I was also quite a slow burner. I wasn't the kid who everybody would spot right away and kind of go, oh God, he's going to have a problem. Those were other people, who probably didn't have a problem in the end, but how was that for you, and how did it progress then?
I relate to what you were just saying there, Silvio, because I was the guy that my mum and dad had their hopes pinned on me. I was the guy that was going to go and make something of themselves. And, I was quite bright at school and stuff. I ended up doing all my GCSEs, all my exams high. I was the same. I was high for every single one of them. Like you was on like smoking buckets. I went and smoked bongs and buckets before every single exam, and cruised them as well. I did really, really well at school. And but the weed carried on. When I left there, and for many years, it was like I've talked about this before. I could control and enjoy it at the same time. And that's what it was. But I ended up falling into a job at where we live. There's a place called BAE Systems, and it's a big shipyard. We build submarines and warships for the Ministry of Defence. So I ended up falling into there, and I got an apprenticeship, and I would be walking around this place with a pipe hid in my overall collar. I'd just be walking around the place, smoking weed all day, obsessing over the weekend. Can't wait for the weekend, drink at the weekend, and then it's back to smoking weed all week, and that was it. I can see now, where the drink may have been a weekend thing, but always had a head change. Always. Always. It was
never sober.
Never ever sober. No. Very quickly as well. As soon as I found what weed could do, it was like, weed for breakfast and weed all day, until I passed out at night time. But I could function properly from smoking weed. In fact, I remember used to say this to people when I was younger, and I can even remember now, and it's like weird looking back to what I know today. I used to say to people, don't feel normal unless I'm stoned. That's what I used to say to people. I feel normal when I'm stoned.
I can't believe you're saying this, because there were times at that age where I remember this so clearly, where a little bit of awareness would creep, heaven forbid, would creep into me. And I'd sort of sit there, and it'd be maybe at 3 o'clock on an afternoon, a Wednesday, totally harmless. And I'd sit there and I'd think to myself, I actually don't know if I'm stoned or sober right now. I can't remember anymore. And of course, when you smoke weed every day, you may look like you're functioning, but you're not actually functioning. I really need to make this clear, at least certainly for me. I can only speak of my own experience. It looks like you're functioning and you can go about a job, but you're not your real self. You're not doing the best you can. You're not being present. By definition, you can't be present. So, And for me...
numb and dumb, like you said before.
Yeah. For me, obviously, things then changed dramatically when I discovered stimulants. I know you from Cocaine Anonymous, so at some point, something happened.
Yeah. We'd go out of the weekends and, we started getting into the club scenes. There was a few of my friends were all DJs, and we started going down what we used to call the Gaza Strip in Barrow. It's not there anymore. There used to be a club down there called Martin's.
Gaza Strip?
Yeah, we used to call it the Gaza Strip, and it was a place called Cornwallis Street. And it was amazing, man. I used to go to this place called Martini's. A few of my mates were all DJing. And then they would also DJ at a place called Wigan Pier in Wigan. And it's that shut down as well. So we'd go through to Wigan every weekend, and we'd be going to Wigan Pier and Monroe's and Maxime's and Cricket. And that soon became like, I have arrived. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Do you know what I'm saying? We'd go, and that's all it was. It was smoke weed all week and party the weekend. And then, these things called ecstasy pills started to get introduced on the scene. And I remember that was it. That was when I first ever took an ecstasy pill. I was sucked into that world, hook, line and sinker for the first one. I remember just taking it, fell in love with everybody, and I just remember thinking, this is it. This is my life now. And even on the Sundays waking up, I could still sort of reel it in then as well, Silvio. I'd go out, listen, on the Sundays, I'd probably party right through till sort of Sunday afternoon and stuff. But when it started to wear off, I would go back to bed. I would go home. I would go to bed. I would ride out a bit of a come down on the Monday and get back to smoking weed through the week. And it was just a weekend thing. The party scene, the Class A's was just a weekend thing for a long time as well. Yeah. For a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you enjoyed it, of course, at that time. You were out with your mates. Everybody's in love with each other. Everybody's hugging and all of that, right?
Yep. Yeah. We honestly, we're, like I said, meeting people from all over the country, going away partying, always at Wigan, Blackpool. We used to go to a place called Syndicate, and then the holidays, the Ibiza and the Amsterdam. Honestly, I lived my life, Silvio, for, I took substances for 20 years, and I would say the first 14 years, I lived my life, and I absolutely loved it. I've heard a lot of things in these rooms, Silvio, where they say, I wouldn't trade my worst day in here for my best day out there, and I just think, I had some amazing times, like some most amazing times of my life. But,
But then our question 3 comes along, and it says, what were your worst consequences? And finally, your rock bottom. So after those 14 years, which is a long time, and I bet you got more mileage out of drugs than most people have, right? Because that's a very, very long time, certainly longer than I ever got out of positive times, quote unquote, from drugs and alcohol. And I had some good times. I really did. Otherwise, you don't get hooked on stuff if you're not having a good time, right? I'm assuming I'm going to skip the usual question, which is, did you have any awareness around this in those 14 years? I'm assuming you didn't. Right?
I'd say I would. It's weird because when you're in it now, looking back, I can look back and, my drug taking. I mean, there was a few guys that I would party with, and I would perceive that they'd be worse than me. But the thing is, I could see them stop when their girlfriends give them the ultimatum, or work said they were going to sack them. These guys would reel it in, but to me, to the eye, they would take more than me. So therefore they were worse than me. But we were in a crowd where it was, people were going crazy, man. And, it was, I did have some sort of awareness. It was creeping in. The weekends were getting longer. The weekdays were getting shorter. I can see it now looking back. They started to be a bit of midweek session coming in, where, maybe the football would be on a Tuesday night, we'd go out, or Wednesday night for the Champions League or whatever. And then it would carry into the next day, and there'd be a few day's work missing. But I don't know what happened, Silvio, maybe 14 years in. I don't know where it was, but things started to happen. It was like the control, like, you know, I had. Once I started to put certain things inside my body, I just could not stop. I just could not stop. You know, and it was the drink that really started to take a hold on me. It was the drink. Yeah, it was the drink that eventually brought me to my knees as well, you know, you know, there was a lot of crack cocaine and stuff like that at the end. But the consequences that started to happen was the job losses, the relationship losses, you know, and some of the literature that we use. It talks about some guys that are given sufficient reasons to stop, and they can stop or moderate, you know. And every girlfriend that I ever had, Silvio, they all warned me, you know. And I would say to them, listen, I mean it, you know. And you would pass that lie detector, you know, but I couldn't stop. Every job, you know, I lost my job. I got made redundant in the shipyard that I was talking about, and then I ended up falling into a couple of other jobs. And I've got this job in sales, Silvio, and you know, I fell into this job, and I soon became quite good at telesales. And you know, this sales environment, it's like the Wolf of Wall Street, and like we got paid to party, man. You know, drinking and using was acceptable at work. You know, in fact, it was
so often. Sorry to interrupt, but this happens so often, and you know, is that we look for and find jobs that will facilitate, enable, or at the very least tolerate our using. This applies to me as well. So what is it like in that sales environment?
Crazy. You know, when I fell into this place by accident. You know, I was actually trying to get, I could not get a job, you know, and I came out of school with all these good qualifications. I literally could not get a job, and I stumbled across this month trial at this sales company, and I ended up taking it, ended up getting quite good. And then I ended up bouncing around, you know, in this town where we live, Silvio, it's notorious for being a sales town. There's quite a lot of sales companies, and I would just bounce around these places, and it was just rich, man. Every single break, you know, we'd be to the pub, every dinner to the pub, after work to the pub and on it. But people would be using and they'd be drinking at work. They'd have stuff in the cupboards, and, you know, and it was acceptable. You know, in fact, it was frowned upon if you weren't on it at work. Do you know what I mean? It got to the point where it was like that. But, you know, so I soon found the, you know, the hair of the dog, you know, the morning, you know, we'd start the morning in the pub. But what started to happen, Silvio, people would, you know, maybe go and nip into the railway for some of them would have a coffee or a pint or whatever in the morning. I'd get in there an hour before them guys. So I'm getting in and I'm sneaky drinking first thing in the morning, even before them guys, you know, even the people that are doing it. I'm hiding stuff from them. And it soon became, you know, a continuous thing. And the drink started to become like all day. Cocaine started to become all day. You know, what happened at first, Silvio, was like the drinking drugs would enhance my performance at work. Yeah. Because I could chat absolute, you know what I mean, on the phone, you know, but I'm trying not to swear. But I could, you know, I could chat it down the phone when I was drunk, when I was high. But what started to happen at times, the drinking drug will have a, you know, it'll start to have a detrimental effect on your well-being, your mental health, your sleep and all that kind of stuff. And soon it started to come out of balance. You know, it was enhancing my performance at work. Then soon the balance started to tip the other way. And, you know, people would start to get on my case at these jobs, and they'd be saying, look, Leo, we know we're all at it, but you seem to be, you know, pushing the boat out a little bit too far. And I'd be like, really? And it was at that point, you know, because I don't want to stop. You know, it's still working. It's still doing what I need it to do. You know, so I'm not going to stop. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the brakes on this. And I find that I can't. When I started to try and put the brakes on it and calm it down, and maybe, you know, just I won't start drinking and using until in the afternoon. Yeah. I found I couldn't. You know, and it was, so then what happens at that point for me was, you start to pull yourself away. You start to pull yourself because, you know, they're all getting on my case and I can't stop. So I go underground, you know, I'm underground. I'm not partying with these guys because when I'm with these guys, they're getting on my case. So now I'm going home straight after work and I'm closing the curtains and I'm using and drinking on my own. And then when I'm going into work the next day, they're saying, "Oh, what did you do?" I said, "Oh, I just had a quiet one. I just had a quiet one." So now I'm lying to even my work colleagues and everything about what's going on, and they're doing it. But now I'm hiding it from them as well. And I started to become sneaky. It starts to become deceitful. It starts to get quite dark at that point.
Were you not scared? I mean, if you are thinking about, we often hear this, don't we? The moment I started drinking or using in the morning was when I got really conscious that I had a major problem. It's one of those things that people measure addiction by, isn't it? Did you not get scared at that point and think to yourself, fucking hell, man, I'm actually using in the morning?
No, because I had this measuring stick of these are not doing it as well. Do you know what I'm saying? They maybe weren't doing it to the extent that I was doing it, but they were doing it. So therefore, it's acceptable. It's just the job I'm in. It's just the job I'm in. It's the environment I'm in. Everybody does it. You know what I'm saying? I was living in that delusion.
The amount of times, that delusion. I can't tell you the amount of times I've spoken to a sponsee or someone, and I've had to have a conversation with them about work environments and it's a scary thing that you may have to change your job if you want to be well and if you want to stay in recovery. And this happens so often. So I just wanted to, and sorry for interrupting, but I just wanted to really make that clear that this is a real issue for a lot of addicts, for a lot of us, is that either you have to change entirely how you behave at work, or sometimes it's just easier to change your job and change your job environment. And that can be really scary on your way to getting well. It's just really important to point that out, I think. So you finally then, at some point, I assume it got so bad that you had to do something about it, and you've experienced probably some sort of rock bottom, although not everybody has them. So what happened then towards the very end of you using?
It was, do you know what, Silvio, as well? There was a bit of a catalyst, I think, that sort of accelerated my use. My best friend died. My best friend in the whole world. A lad called Dean. And he died. He went to watch a gig in Manchester. He went to watch Matt Corby. He went with his two brothers and their two girlfriends. And he never come home. He fell off a balcony. And that was, I did not know how to deal with it. I did not know how to cope with it. And the only thing that I knew was that drinking drugs numbed that pain for me. And that was it was a catalyst that accelerated. And that bender, that lasted 4.5 years. I did not stop drinking drugs for 4.5 years. And along that, I upset a lot of people. I upset a lot of girls. I lost a lot of jobs. And it eventually took me to the point where I was physically dependent. I couldn't even stop drinking if I wanted to. I was having seizures. I had blood coming out of both ends every day. This is how warped my mind was at that time. Any normal person would look at blood coming out the backside or the mouth as, this is really, really, really bad now. My mind was just telling me this is going to go away. It'll just go away. Just keep drinking. It'll go away. And, when I was trying to stop, I was having these seizures, and, I was waking up in the streets and stuff sometimes, banged my head and didn't know what had gone on. And it was, I think I was possibly weeks away from, my body was completely shutting down on me, Silvio. And it took a really good friend of mine, she's still a good friend today, she found me in a really bad way. And she said to me, "Listen, I'm going to tell your mum." She said, "I can't unsee this." She said, "I can't unsee this." I was on my knees coughing, and I had, blood coming out my mouth and stuff. And she said, "I'm going to tell your mum." And I remember begging her, please don't, I'm all right. Thank God she did, and that set the ball rolling. Eventually I ended up connecting to the drink and drug places. Don't get me wrong, I mean, over them, that 4.5 year period, Silvio, I tried half-assed to, stop with certain things. I spent £3,000 with a hypnotist who had a 100% record until he met me, Silvio. But I tried
mine.
I tried the CBT. I tried all that kind of stuff, the counselling and all this kind of stuff. But I know, looking back today, that there was no real or wholeheartedness in it. It was more to get people off my case, even because the mind was still telling me there's still a party to be had here. There's still, even though there was the party had finished ages ago, the mind, the delusion that I lived in, the mind was still telling me there's still a party to be had. And the fact was, it wasn't fun anymore. It was dangerously antisocial.
Yeah. I think a lot of us, and this includes me, when trauma comes into our lives and we're already using it's petrol on the fire, right? And that certainly was the case for me. And I'm so sorry to hear about your loss. Were you able to? Did you try and seek any help with the grieving or anything like that, or were you just off and running and it was just all over, really?
Yeah. No, I never sought help for that, Silvio. I just did what I thought was best at the time and poured alcohol on it, and just smashed as many drugs into my system as I could because it worked. It worked, but eventually, it did. He started to, he physically having a huge detrimental effect. And, like I said, I ended up connecting to these places, the drinking drug places, and they put me on this reduction plan. And I was on this reduction plan for a long, long time. And the guy that was working for at the time, I was, oh my God, I was still sort of turning up for work, bladdered, high, no sleep, and I was a nuisance. I could have shut the guy's company down, Silvio. I was putting through wrong amounts on his terminal. Instead of putting £60 through, I'm putting a lot larger amounts through than that by accident, too many zeros and stuff like that. And, I could have shut this guy's company down. And eventually when my friend found me and I ended up connecting to these drinking drug places and they put me on this reduction plan, work had said to me, don't come back until you get yourself sorted, Leo. So I ended up making it my job to do this reduction plan. But I'll be honest with you, at first, Silvio, I wasn't taking it seriously.
Now, at your worst, and it sounds like you put yourself through quite a lot there, or your addiction did. That's our question 4. Did you ever want to die? Did you consider suicide? If you're enjoying this podcast and would like other addicts and alcoholics to hear it, then please make the pesky AIs and algorithms work their 12th step. Hit like and subscribe.
No, I don't. I can honestly share. I didn't want to live, but I didn't want to die. I felt like I was existing, and there was times that it's strange, isn't it? Because I don't even know if I want to rephrase that. I did want to live, but there was times that I didn't want to go through what I'm going through. I want to get out of this somehow, but I don't know how. I don't think, no, Silvio, I didn't ever want to die. I don't think, no. Right, times were hard, but I was too scared. It was very, very dark times, but I always had this. Do you know, Silvio, this thing when you hear people about, right at the end when they say, I just didn't care. The fact is I did, Silvio. And I knew what I was putting my mum and dad through. I knew what I was putting these lot through and, her through and all this lot. And it used to eat away at me. It'd kill me. I did have this, I was raised with morals and manners and I had this conscience, and this conscience would kill me, man. Do you know what I mean? And it was, I had that, I had experience, I'd get in bed of a night time and that guilt and shame I would shudder of a night time thinking what am I doing? I'm really hurting people here, but yet I still couldn't stop, and I knew that, if I took my own life or did anything like that, and I'm leaving it all behind, I don't think it ever really came to me.
Did you think though at the time that, or were you willing to accept perhaps that you could go over with the kind of drinking and using that you were doing?
Oh yeah. I had those seizures and the blood, and it was, my mind would be telling me it's going to go away, but then I'd have these moments of clarity, like this is really abnormal. The amount that I was drinking, especially, it was not normal.
So you had moments where you knew and you realized.
Yeah, these little moments of clarity, and then I just step out of it again. But, the drink stopped working, Silvio. The drugs stopped working. The drink, literally, people didn't even know I was drunk. for me, all it stopped was the shakes. Literally, that's all I was drinking for. It was I wasn't even getting the ease and comfort that I used to get from it anymore. It was literally, I was still, I was still feeling all that stuff that we talk about, even when the booze was going in, but it was just stopping the shakes.
Yeah. Now, we touched on this just a little bit earlier, but still, our question 5 is, what other methods did you try to get sober before finding the room? So we've already heard that you broke your unfortunate hypnotist's amazing 100% record. And you went on this reduction, you said, on this reduction plan. What was that like? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Okay, so I went to this place called Unity, and I'll be honest with you, Silvio. It was the first week. I mean, I don't want to go into amounts and stuff that I was taking, but basically they'd set this. It was a lot. It was a lot. That's all I'm going to say. And they give me the strategic reduction plan, and this is how week 1 going to go, and this is how week 2 going to go, and this is how week 3 is going to go. And I'll be honest with you, what had happened was, Silvio, this was just something just come back to me there. So I had no money. I had literally everything stripped from me, my bank card taken off me. Work weren't going to have me back until I was sorted. And we had to go to Aldi, and we had to find a wine with my mum and dad. I had to find, I'm 35 at this point. No, wait there, Silvio. Yeah, 34, 35. Still, mum and dad are looking after me still.
With mum and dad,
yeah, mum and dad. And I remember going to Aldi, Silvio, and we were trying to find this bottle of wine for the cheapest that we could get it, for the highest percentage, right? And we found this wine. It was disgusting. My mum and dad, Silvio, were buying it by the pallet, right? And I'm not even joking. They were going to this Aldi where we live, and I remember something's just come back to me there. My mum was going in this Aldi and she was buying it, and one of the women said to my mum, "Bloody hell, you like a party, don't you?" Thinking it was for her. My mum was mortified to the point where she had to start going for another Aldi. And then someone said something to her as well. Then my mum and dad ended up going as far as Lancaster, which is an hour and 10 minutes away, to buy wine for me. Because, but the
stuff we put people through is just...
it's unbelievable. And my mum and dad were buying it for me. I didn't have it. So week 1 was planned out, bring it down to this. Week 2, bring it down to this. Now, what was happening was I lived a place, I was living with 2 alcoholics at the time as well. I wasn't, so they were drinking, but they were like trying to help me. They were actually helping me. But my mum would bring me all this wine in the morning, okay? Now, I'm an alcoholic. And if you give me X amount of wine in the morning, I can't space that out over the day. I have an inability to stop when I start. So, I'm putting the first one in the morning, and I've got it all planned out throughout the day. I'm going to drink this, and then this at this time, and this at this time. It was all gone by dinner time. It was all gone. Then I'm going round scrounging off people. I'm scrounging off, going round people's houses, and I ended up drinking Listerine, hand sanitizer. I was not sticking to this reduction plan. And every time I'd go down to Unity to see my key worker, she'd be saying, "All right, so Leo, how are we getting on with the reduction plan?" And I'd be like, yeah, it's all, I'm sticking to it, fine. And she'd be like, "Right, well, it's, it's 1 p.m. By my calculations, we should have drank X amount by now." And then I'd be like, yeah. And she'd be like, "Right, let's see what the breathalyzer says." And then she'd pull the breathalyzer out, and she'd be like, "Breathalyzer says," and I'd be like, she's like, "Leo, if you're not going to stick to this reduction plan, I'm not going to get you this detox. I'm not going to get you this detox." And every time I'd go down there, she'd get the breathalyzer. I knew what was coming, yet I still could not do it, because when I started drinking, I stopped. And it took to the point where what actually happened was, Silvio, I look back now and I can see God working in my life. Today, at the time, I didn't realise this. And what actually happened was I got done for drink driving my mate's car. We got caught. I was driving my friend's car, and I'd had 4 bottles of wine. 4 bottles of wine to me there, Silvio, would just stop that. I felt absolutely, I do not condone drink driving, by the way.
No,
but I felt capable to drive at the time, and I know that's insane. But I ended up getting in this car, and I got pulled, and I ended up getting a £700 fine, 3-year driving ban and an 11-week tag. And I remember that as being absolutely catastrophic at the time because I had no money. My mum's buying all this wine. Now I've got to go back to my mum and ask for £700. They were not happy, but I got this 11-week tag and a curfew. And now I look back on it and it was that God showed up as a police officer that day because it was the tag that made me come to this realize, right, now I can't go out scrounging of a night time, going around people's houses. And I remember just thinking, let's just do this stuff seriously. Let's just knuckle down and get this reduction plan done. Let's just do it. And it was the tag that got me to knuckle down with the reduction plan that eventually got me into a detox, which eventually got me into rehab, that eventually I think is why I'm here today. And it was that police officer, the catalyst that day, I think, that set the whole ball rolling for me, And
it brings us neatly to our question 6, which is, when you came into the rooms, did you struggle with the word God?
Oh, yeah, 100% Silvio. So I ended up, it's a bit crazy. I rocked up into the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous to begin with. I went to a treatment centre, and believe it or not, Silvio, this is crazy. So I spent the last 4 years of my drinking in a pub called the Derby in Barrow-in-Furness. And I used to stand on the doorstep of this pub. I'd be getting stuff dropped off. I'd be drinking, smoking. And I used to see all these guys congregating outside the building next door, like literally next door, one wall divided. I used to think it was a youth club. Well, that was the treatment centre that I ended up in. One wall next door. I remember when I was, honestly, I swear, I'm not even joking, one wall right next door. I thought it was a youth club. And when I was in this detox in Kendal, this geezer started 12-stepping me and I didn't realise what he was doing at the time. And he started selling me the idea of the treatment centre and stuff. And when I said to him, okay, let's do it, he said, right. I said, no, I remember saying to him, do we need to pack my bags or anything? He said, oh, no, you're not going anywhere, mate. No, he said, I said, what do you mean? He said, oh, it's in Barrow. And I remember saying to him, like, I'm 35, mate. I've lived in Barrow my entire life. There's no treatment centre in Barrow. I'd know. And he said, there is. He said, it's at the bottom, bottom of Dalton Road. It's right next door to the Derby. And I ended up in treatment centre next door. But anyways, getting back to the question, I remember when I rocked up in that place, I'd just come off this reduction plan, this detox. And I remember just thinking, we don't want to go back. Like, I remember just thinking, like, I do not want to go back there. And I remember rocking up in this treatment centre. And it's crazy because my old drug dealer, the guy that I used to compare myself to, this guy went missing like about 7 years previous to this. And there he's running the place. He was running the place. I couldn't believe my eyes. I thought this guy was dead. It was like I'd literally seen a ghost. But the first 10 minutes of being in this treatment centre, I heard 3 words. And I heard abstinence, amends, and God. And I remember thinking, get me out of here now. I remember thinking, get me out of here. It's crazy how my mind shifted in 10 minutes from hearing 3 words. What do you mean by this abstinence thing? Can you just explain that to me? What because I'm coming here with a drink problem. I don't want to stop doing this and this and this. And they were like, 0, anything. And what? Amends, can you explain that to me? And I remember thinking, wow. And then God, I remember I was the guy that was taking the mick out of these lot, Silvio, calling them Bible bashers. And I had this God thing and I could not get it. I was like, how? I've come in here with a drink problem and you lot are talking God. Like, how does this work? I don't get it. And I'm thinking it's all this religious thing. But like I said, Silvio, right? I had all this going on in my head. And my head was saying, get out of here now. Go, go, go. But lucky for me, I had visible recovery sat right in front of me. I had the guy that I used to compete. He was my own, in our literature, we talk about Ebby. He was my own Ebby. He was the guy that I used to compare myself to. And now he's clearly sat opposite. There's a miracle sat right in front of me. Last time I seen him, he was not like what he was right now. And it was visible and it was just, you could clearly see something's happened to him. How have you done that? How have you done that? And then there was other people in there as well that I used to use and drink with, and I knew how bad they were. And they were all sat there now, fresh-faced, glowing, spark behind their eyes. And they're all telling me that they've done this stuff.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that just amazing that the people who you think were worse than you, right, who you kind of go, well, as long as I'm not as bad as him, I'll be just fine. Thank you very much. I don't need any help. Thank you. That those people show up recovered in your life. I mean, that is an absolutely amazing thing. And
There's
just
no
those
denying
people,
it.
absolutely, there is no denying it. Quite right. It takes away any kind of possibility of you arguing, justifying anything like it. It's right there in front of your eyes, proof in front of your eyes. That's really rare and really amazing, you know. And for those people who are not quite as familiar with the book, perhaps, Ebby Thatcher was the person who showed up sober at the person at Bill Wilson's house, who then went on to co-found Alcoholics Anonymous and write the book by which we would get well, the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. So this leads me straight away to our question 7, of course, which is, how do you experience your higher power today? And this is also a place to share some God moments. Now, you've already shared one, of course. You know, you show up at this treatment center, which is right next to your pub. Unbeknownst to you, right? The blindness of our blindness in drinking and using is just so amazing that you have the treatment center right next. You would never be interested in kind of finding out what's actually happening there, would you?
No.
You know, and the people you used to use with, and those people who you thought were worse than you, are there and they're recovered. So if that isn't a God moment, I don't know. But how do you experience your higher power today, and what are some God moments?
It's a good question, that, Silvio, because, you know, we talk about God as I understand God. For me, I think, how can you understand God? For me, I don't think God can be understood. For me, to understand God, that would mean that you would have to use your mind. And I don't think you can use your mind to understand God. I just think that God's only experienced. And I don't know what God is. I don't need to know what God is. I really don't. Mine's a God as I do not understand. I don't need to understand. I'll never understand. That's how I refer to God. You know, and I just believe that God, He's everywhere and everything. I really do. You know, and I know, you know, the thing is, when I came into this stuff, Silvio, the guy, like I said, the guy that was worse than me, he's telling me that he's just done this stuff. You know, and it took me, you know, I would love to say that I got it straight away. You know, I didn't. I was in that treatment centre for 13 months. I came out of there one day before the big lockdown happened. And I moved in with a girl that I'd got with while I was in the treatment centre, which was not allowed, you know. She wasn't in the treatment centre, by the way. She's a normal person. And I ended up moving in with her for 2 weeks until this lockdown thing would blow over, and then I could move back into the treatment centre. Anyways, I'm still there now. I'm married, and I've got a baby as well now. So so I never, amazing. But I came out of the treatment centre after 13 months, Silvio, and, you know, I hadn't got it. I didn't understand what I suffered with, and I was running around thinking I had a choice to stay stopped. You know, I thought that a long period of sobriety plus the knowledge that I had acquired in there, but the inner workings of my mind, would qualify me to be normal again. And I drank against my own will, you know. And anyway, someone put this big book, this blue book in my hand, and that was the day my life changed. You know, and I got rocketed through this stuff, and things started to happen, Silvio. And talk about God moments, you know. What I did, Silvio, and this is because we talk about faith, right? And faith for me is belief, okay? It's like if I, for example, sent someone to the shop to go and buy something for me and it cost £5, I don't know, let's say a vape or something, and I give them £10. I don't know this person. I'm putting my trust in this person. Can you go and get me a vape? And they go to the shop, they buy me the vape, they bring it back with £5 change. The next time I'm sending that person to the shop, I'll probably send them in faith because I believe they're going to do it, you know? And it's the same sort of thing with this stuff. I put my trust in this guy. I put my trust in the book. I put my trust in the fellowship. I put my trust in the program. And I just started to do the stuff that was laid out in front of me. Put the action in, and I just went through it. And then what actually started to happen, Silvio, was the trust that I put in this guy and the work started to develop a track record. Things started to happen which I could not explain. You know, the things that you told me was going to happen started to happen. And I believe that, you know, where I came to believe, where the faith, for me, it was the trust that started the ball rolling, and that turned into faith in the belief when things started to happen to me in step 9 that I could not explain.
Mm-hmm. Our question 8 is, which parts of the steps were the most difficult for you? So we are talking about the steps right now, so this seems the right moment to come in with this question. you were speaking about your step 9. Which steps or which parts of the steps gave you most trouble? Where did you struggle?
Listen, I struggled with a lot, Silvio, because all the way through it, my mind was saying, this is not going to work. This is not, even though I've got a guy sat opposite me that is glowing absolutely from doing this stuff, my mind was still telling me, this is not going to work. This is not. But there was something driving me, because that day, the step 1 experience that I had was the rocket fuel that propelled me through the rest of the steps. It was. I drank against my own will, and I came to the realization from the information in the book plus that experience that that's going to happen again. And I've got no say in it. And that's scary. And it was that propelled me through the steps. But I remember going through it thinking, I don't want to do this. I don't want to. But them times when you write an inventory and you don't really want to write inventory, Silvio. Yeah. That step 1 experience pushing you through it. Do you know them time when you're making amends and you don't want to make them amends? It's that step 1 experience pushing you through it. And I truly believe that, it says in the book, almost none of us like the leveling of our pride and the self-searching that this process requires for its successful consummation. Almost, you tell me anyone that enjoys doing these 12 steps, right? I didn't enjoy it, but I like the effects produced by the 12 steps. And what happened for me was, like I said, Silvio, the step 9 thing was nobody likes sitting opposite somebody and telling them square, eyeball to eyeball, what I did to you. You may not have even, I made amends to people. I stole £4,000 from people. I don't like to sit in front of someone and say, I stole £4,000 from you. I stole your iPod. I did this, I did that. Nobody enjoyed that. But at the end of the day, that's what this stuff requires if you want to recover. Yeah.
Our question 9 is, which character defects give you most trouble?
Every single one, Silvio. Every single one. The selfishness is there. Honestly, still to this day, Silvio, I was actually having a conversation with someone the other day, and it gave me, I've been around now long enough, and I listen to a lot of people speak. I listen to a lot of shares. And I'm hearing guys that are 30, 40 years in, still talking about messing up every day. Still talking about acting on defects and stuff. So that tells me that I don't think these defects will ever be removed. But I don't know. I think God's got a plan for us every single day when we wake up. God's got an assignment for us. He has an assignment for me and you today, and he's got a different assignment for us tomorrow. I think God just removes the defects that get in the way of doing that daily assignment every day.
Okay, so selfishness is one of them. How does that manifest then, your selfishness? Go on.
Oh, the selfishness. Silvio, a big one for me is food. Food. It still comes out today. And the selfishness, I have a lack of awareness. This is a big thing, Silvio, as well. I've just had a baby daughter, and I've got a wife. I've just moved into a new house and stuff. And at the minute, my wife is doing everything. I'm out at work, and, the recovery stuff. We talk about this balance. And, my wife's constantly saying, about the time that I give to this stuff that we do in the meetings and, the sponsoring and stuff like that. And I'm conscious, we were talking about this balance. And, for me, whenever I try to balance this stuff, and sort of, if you try to balance your life, you're not trying to manage your life, do you know? And so for me, it is, sometimes I can be really full throttle with this stuff, and I can and neglect my own family. I wouldn't say neglect. In terms of time it's given to my family. That's where I think, the selfishness, I have this lack of awareness of what I'm actually doing. My mind tells me it's good, but then, constant thought of others includes our family, I suppose.
Full disclosure, it's a shared sentiment. I've heard this from my wife that I do so much recovery that it gets in the way. And it is another form of selfishness, I suppose, at times. Certainly for me, and in a funny sort of way, cocaine was my problem. And and even now, it still dictates my life to a large degree. It's just that I'm on the other side of it now, right? But I still spend a long time being involved with it in one way or another, and that's just something that I have to accept for myself and find balance, which I think for someone like, I'm going to include you in this, for people like us, is one of the hardest assignments, because as addicts, we suffer from this disease of more and of overdoing, right? One of the things that my wife said all along, even in times when I wasn't using, before my using then got back off, but took off again and so on, she would always say to me, why can't you do things in moderation? It didn't matter what it was, whether it was buying clothes, eating, whatever it is, or, just a new interest I would have, it would be obsessive always, without fail. So yes, it's a shared experience then. Thank you, Leo. Question 10. What is the best thing recovery has given?
Do you know what, Silvio? I was saying this to someone the other day, like the last 3 years, so I've been around this stuff for 5, just over 5, but like I said, the first 2 years, I wasn't giving myself fully to this stuff. And, but the last 3 years, Silvio, has been that generous for me. It's quite embarrassing sometimes. It's quite embarrassing. Like, and I mean, it makes me cringe because it is, in terms of material things, but, in the last 3 years, I have got married. I've had a baby daughter. I've set up 2 businesses. I got my driving license back. I've just bought my own house. Like, those things, Silvio, are physically impossible for someone like me. My default setting, Silvio, is seek and destroy. That's what my default setting is. I seek and destroy. And those things, I haven't gone out looking for that stuff. Those things have been plonked in front of me. But I'd say the most amazing thing, put all that stuff to the side. I mean, they're all nice, good, nice, shiny things, but the thing that this has given me more than anything is my mum's peace of mind, my dad's peace of mind. My mum and dad, what they've put up with me, my sister, they can sleep at night, Silvio. They do not worry about me. My mum and dad, they couldn't go on any holidays. They couldn't do anything because they were constantly worried about me. They came home from holiday, I don't know how many times, because I was causing carnage at home. My mum and dad are now going on like 9 or 10 holidays every year, Silvio. They're making up for lost time. They're going away, doing things. They're going away for weekends, and they do not have to worry. When I speak to them a lot, and my mum's she just cries all the time, Silvio. She just cries. She just says to me, she's so proud, and she just says how she does not worry anymore. And it's just such a gift that my mum is now being able to enjoy her life. My dad is now being able to enjoy her life, and that means more to me than anything. I can be present most of the time for my family. I've got a baby daughter. Like, she's amazing. Do you know what I mean? She's amazing. I've got an amazing wife. I've got my son, my stepson. I look at him like, man, I've got a family and stuff, and just amazing, man. All the material stuff's pretty cool, but give me an item in my family, or any day now. Amazing.
Yeah. Perhaps you're not quite as selfish as you thought you are.
Yeah, maybe not. But I don't know.
Question 11. What would you say to a newcomer or someone wondering if they're an addict?
Wondering if I'm an addict? Come to the rooms and speak to people. Because I had a lot of reasons why I wasn't an addict, Silvio, when I came to these rooms. Because in my mind I had a picture of what an addict was. I wasn't that. I have never been diagnosed by one as a doctor. I've never claimed drink tokens. I've got my own tea. I can sort of hold the job down. I can pull girls, and all these different things. I know addicts can't do that. Addicts can't do that. And but when I sat down with somebody who knew what they were talking about, who knew about this stuff that we did, and they explained to me, and they showed me some literature, and they took me through that, they allowed me to diagnose myself as an addict. Nobody told me I was an addict. I told myself I was an addict, yeah? By taking the information in the literature, listening to you guys tell your stories, taking your experience and pitting it up against my experience, see if it matches. Taking the information in the book, pitting it up to my experience, see if it matches. And I came to the conclusion that I was an addict. So, if for anyone's listening and wondering, please come into the rooms. Please pick up some of the literature. Ask someone to take you through it. Ask someone to explain this stuff. Don't be scared to ask what your mind is telling you as a stupid question. That living in that fear early on for me was, I'm so scared to ask someone, what does that word mean? What does that sponsor word mean? What does this powerless word mean? What do these, please come in. You're never a burden on anybody in these rooms. And
I think you're pointing out something really interesting there, which is that even if you happen not to be an alcoholic or an addict, if you came into the rooms, no one's going to. Everybody's so welcoming and so mostly well, really. There's a lot of well people in the rooms, and of course there's newcomers who are still struggling maybe, but even if you came in as a non-alcoholic to just say, look, I'm drinking a lot and I'm fine, and you find that actually you're not, no one's going to throw you out. You're always welcome in the rooms. There is no shame in there or anything like that. Even if you found out, okay, I'm an alcoholic, actually it'd be better if I stayed. Okay, that's one thing. But even if you aren't, you're still most welcome to come. You're still most welcome to sit in and find out more about yourself. There is no one's going to check you at the door. The greeters are there to greet. No one's going to check you at the door if you're the real thing or maybe not. So it's really important to point that out, because sometimes I wonder whether people feel they can only come once they know that they're an addict or an alcoholic. And that's not the case. You come to find out,
Absolutely. Yeah. This way of life could have its benefits for everyone. So
there is that. Our last question 12. Leo, what do you want your higher power to say to you, quote unquote, at the pearly gates?
What a question. What a question that is. Do you want to do it again? Yeah. Do you want to do it again? You know what? I believe us guys have been chosen. I had to go through everything that I went through so I could be of use to other people. And I hope that in my future life, Silvio, I hope I come back with some more problems, So I can come back. It might not be drinking drugs. It might not even be addiction. It might be, I hope I come back and I hope I have other problems in a future life so I can overcome those problems and then go on to help other people overcome those problems as well. So yeah, I'd like to, what would my higher power say? Do you want to do it again? Yeah? Lovely. I'd like to do it again. Yeah,
that's lovely. You're wearing a football shirt, so maybe something along the lines of, go sit on the bench for a little while, have a rest, put on a fresh shirt and go back out.
Love that. Love it, mate.
That's great.
Awesome.
Wonderful. Leo, you've been so generous and so honest and so courageous in telling us your story. And what a wonderful story it is and how powerful it is, the experiences you have made. And thank you so much for sharing them, for being my guest today on 12 Steps and 12 Questions.
Pleasure, Silvio. I've enjoyed it, mate. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you. We're still rolling. Good stuff, man. Did you feel like you left it all on the field, so to speak, if we're staying with the football analogy here? Did you leave it all on the field?
I love that analogy. Silvio, it's brilliant, that. No, that's cool, man. No, I really did. I enjoyed that, mate. It was good.
All right, great. Excellent. Yeah. Do you feel left out anything, or was everything that needed saying was said?
It just flowed, mate. I believe that, whatever's done is done. That's it. It was all supposed to go the way it was supposed to go, Silvio. It's like when you share, mate, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? I remember the days when I first come in and planning shares and stuff like that, and it never comes off as you want it to anyways. Do you know what I mean? You come away from it thinking, I didn't do that, I should have said that, I didn't, and you beat yourself up. For me today, it's just, before I came on, I had a little prayer, and whatever comes out, and that's it.
Yeah, wonderful. That's amazing. It came out beautifully. Thanks again. I'll speak to you soon.
Silvio, it was a pleasure, mate. Honestly, thanks for having me, pal.
Thank you. We've come to the end of this episode. Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed it and would like other addicts and alcoholics to hear it, then please make the pesky AIs and algorithms work their 12th step. Hit like and subscribe. While this pod is based on the 12-step recovery program, it's not officially affiliated with any 12-step fellowship. 12 Steps and 12 Questions is not substance or behavior specific. It's fully self-supporting and not for profit. And this next bit. It's not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, and it neither endorses nor opposes any causes.